Hey, it's Tim and Guy. We're here again for you on a Friday night. Look, market was the big story, but the big story we want to talk about is Apple. Apple downgraded at Goldman Sachs, $230 price target slapped on it with a sell rating. Tim, what are your thoughts on Apple and Goldman Sachs?
First of all, brave call by Goldman. I like that. And Apple's a market proxy, so there's a lot of reasons why you might be talking about it. Before we do that, by the way, you still walking around with a flip phone, that of Motorola?
I have one. I mean, do I walk around with it? No. Why is that?
Well, because I have a vision of you as Michael Douglas on Wall Street walking down the beach in the Hamptons looking at the sunrise. Hey, buddy, if you could see what I could see right now.
I will tell you, yeah, those original gray phones with the huge batteries on the back, right, with the plastic antenna that if you pulled out, if you had it in your jacket pocket, I might still have that upstairs. I should break that out next week.
Well, you're like Radar O'Reilly, but let's keep moving. So Goldman's call is to downgrade it 233 a share. They're putting a 17.7 times multiple on the stock, which they're bringing it in line with the S&P. Again, it's a market proxy on some level, and very different than earlier in the week. JP Morgan upgrades, I think, to 320, 340 share-ish. I think 335 a share, basically had 1660 a share, 20 time multiple. And it tells you where people go on this stock, because I just think that Apple is such an emotional stock. It's such an important stock for the market. Remember, this is about 11% of the NASDAQ 100. It's the largest weighting in the S&P. It means so much for people. And look, good for Goldman. I don't totally agree. Do you?
No, but that's what makes markets. And I think embedded in this is a bit of a broader market call as well. And I think you alluded to that. If you think Apple's going to retest or test back to that 233 level, I think part of you has to think that the market is not going to continue to ratchet higher to the extent that we've seen. So I like their timing of the call. For me, it's like trading a player after having, what akin to a pretty decent run. Like why the Mets should trade that koala bear at first. What's his name? That first baseman, Jim Alonso. Now's the time to unload the koala bear. I mean, in my opinion, he plays first base like he's picking up hand grenades.
All right. It's the polar bear. And as opposed to the Yankees, who tend to actually buy guys at the peak and pay the most for them before they ever do anything. We could do this all night. By the way, I don't know if you saw the news reports, but speaking about trading a guy, what's coming out today is apparently the Mets and the Yanks had agreed in a little crosstown trade last year for Zach Wheeler near the trade. I mean, that's what we got right now.
That would have been fine with me. I was a Zach Wheeler. I like guys that play for the Mets that clearly don't want to play for the Mets. Like, it's painfully clear that they have no interest in being there. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Playing in New York is not the same as playing for the Mets. Let's just be crystal clear with that. And your argument before about the Yankees is a lazy argument. I expect more from you. They don't buy championships, Tim. You know that, and I know that.
Okay, but again, Carlos Beltran, as an example of the guy that really took more money to play in the Mets uniform, I get it. What's clear is the Yankees are drawing everybody to the Bronx and have for the last 30 years because they have the biggest checkbook. All right. And let's be clear about that. So you can think about this any way you want. In terms of playing, trading a player before, they're done, or when you see something that somebody else doesn't. Has Goldman done that? I'm not sure. Has JP Morgan done that? I don't know. But as I look towards next week, I think it's very important to understand that we're getting deeper into earnings season. And let's tie this up for folks, because I'm not sure that the last 2 weeks we had are the week we're going to have next week.
I agree with that. And I think if you're playing at home, if you want to think about it over the weekend, Apple's had a big move off that 228 or so level that it cratered down to. Here we are thinking the 280s. There's absolutely nothing wrong with taking some money off the table into earnings, I believe, at the end of the month. And you're going to have other analysts upgrade this stock into earnings as well. But I think we're at an inflection point now where taking some money off the table, listening to what Goldman Sachs said and the reasons behind it, to me, make a lot of sense, Tim, as we go into next week.
Look, I don't think you need to swing for the fences. Take it one day at a time. And, Guy, I don't know about you, but I put my pant legs on one leg at a time.
It's funny you say that. I've attempted to put them on both at the same time, and different degrees of success, but I think the prudent thing to do is one leg at a time. And what I'll tell you is typically my left leg is the first in my pants.
Not touching that one. On that note, have a good weekend.
Later.